There are so many euphemisms associated with people dying or things dying, crossing the Rainbow Bridge. Oh, they've gone to be with Jesus, all it. To me, fuck Jesus. Why did my 9-month-old child die? Don't tell me he's with Jesus. Tell me why it happened. But that's not the whole story I want to tell. Several years ago, I was having trouble breathing and heart palpitations, and a friend took me to one of the local hospitals, no name will be said, and they did some tests and stuff, and they decided they were going to keep me and needed to do a stress test in the morning. They did the stress test and decided that I needed to have a heart catheterization. Well, this youngish doctor, probably in his 40s, came in and he explained to me what he was going to do, and they were going to do the heart cath, through my wrist, and it wouldn't be, not a big deal, although you have to sign this paper of 1,023 things that could go wrong before they'll do it. Well, I'm down in the room where they're preparing me for the surgery, and this old guy walks up and says his name was the same name as the doctor that I'd seen earlier in the day, but it most definitely was not the same doctor. And he was going to do the surgery. And that quick I was out, and it's like, my mind is like, that's not the right guy, that's not the right guy. Well, when I woke up, they hadn't gone in through my wrist, they'd gone in through the groin and did the test, and everything seemed to be okay. And, you need to stay off your feet for a while. You need to, be flat and that kind of thing. So I went home, and I thought I was doing okay. They said, go to see your family doctor in a couple of days. Well, I went to see the family doctor, and I complained that there were some spots, like on my feet, that, under the skin, and they said, oh, that's purpura or something like that. Those spots will go away. They get absorbed back into your body. Okay. Sounds good. I woke up 2 days later, and I was bleeding out. There was blood all over the bed. The incision had opened, and fortunately, I had my cell phone near me and called the ambulance. They had to break down my door to get in, get the lock in, and got me to the hospital. And they were able to contact my daughter, who lives in town at the time, and they had started putting weights on the area that was bleeding, trying to stop the bleeding. Well, it wasn't being very effective, and then they had the nurses pushing on the spot, standing there all the time. And then one doctor came in and said, well, you're going to need to have surgery, but we can't pull together the team that needs to do the surgery until Monday. Well, this was Friday afternoon, so I'm going to have to be in this hospital all weekend bleeding out, because they couldn't get it stopped, until Monday when they could gather this team. It's like, where is this emergency team where they fly everybody in to save you? It wasn't happening. So they decided that they wanted to take me to get another test, so they took me down into those freezing rooms, where they send you to have tests, and they ran a couple of tests on me, CAT scans and those kind of things. And they put me back in that little waiting area with the curtains that hang around you. And my daughter was waiting for me in the room. And my other daughter had come up. And my other children, my son was living in North Carolina at the time, and my other daughter was living in Virginia. And they're sitting there waiting for me to come back from these tests. And they asked the nurses, how are the tests coming? We don't know. We haven't heard anything. And they's like, now it's like going on 3 hours, 4 hours. And they finally come in and they tell my daughter that they don't know where I am in the hospital. They couldn't find me. Well, my son calls to find out what was going on. And my daughter told him that they lost Mom. You know exactly what he thought in that moment. He thought that I had died. Well, when literally the hospital had fucking lost me in the damn hospital. How can they do that? So I was hours without these weights on my body, stopping the bleeding, and all of that going on. And took that time for me to realize how close you can be to death. And finally, Monday came, and they did the surgery. And I swear I will not go back to that hospital. If I'm dying, let me die. I don't want to go back to that hospital again. And when I need to go to a hospital now, I go to the hospital that's north of the city where they have chocolate. So that's where I go to the hospital now. Thank you.